Welcome to Igniting the Worldwide Spiritual Wildfire We Need Now, a call to action global online summit. We live in an extraordinary time, both exceptionally promising yet radically uncertain. But as we dive into uncharted waters and move closer to a critical tipping point, we see a worldwide awakening beginning to catch fire. If you're listening to this summit, you are definitely part of the amazing shift that is beginning to transform the world like a spiritual wildfire. In this summit, you'll hear from 21 amazing speakers who each in their own unique ways have been the way showers and the pioneers leading the way to the paradigm shift that is unfolding now. This summit offers inspiration, healing, and practical tools to anyone who is ready to courageously use their own light to help spread this worldwide spiritual wildfire. Together, we can create a new world based in compassion, wisdom, justice, and joy. My name is Joan D'Argo, and I am your host, creator, and producer of the Spiritual Wildfire Summit, and I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. And today, I am very excited, grateful, and honored to interview Dr. Jude Currivan. Welcome, Jude. It's really, really great to have you on this summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joan. I'm delighted to be with you and everyone who's participating in this wonderful event at such an important time. So thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. So Jude, you are. Let me just, before we go any further, let me tell the audience, the participants in the summit, a little bit about who you are, okay, in case they're not familiar with you. So Jude is a cosmologist, a planetary healer, futurist, and author. She was previously one of the most senior business women in the UK, has a master's degree in physics from Oxford University, specializing in quantum physics and cosmology. She also has a doctorate in archaeology from the University of Reading, researching ancient cosmologies. She has traveled to more than 80 countries and has worked with wisdom keepers from many traditions. Her extensive experience and knowledge of world events, systems, and trends has led her to speak on transformational reforms in the UK, US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and Australasia. She is a lifelong researcher into the scientific and experiential understanding of the nature of reality, integrating leading-edge science, research into consciousness, and universal wisdom teachings into a holistic worldview. She is the author of 6 books, most recently The Cosmic Hologram, and is a member of the Evolutionary Leaders. In 2017, she co-founded Wholeworld-view to communicate the emerging paradigm of unified reality and to empower conscious evolution. She lives in Wiltshire, England, with her husband, Tony. And today, the topic of the interview of her talk is Living the Power of Unity. So again, welcome, Jude. I can't wait to get into this conversation with you.
So can I. Thanks, Joan.
You're welcome. So, Jude, you are a leading voice in the convergence of science and spirituality. Tell us a little bit about this convergence. How do we begin to understand it, and what is the emerging narrative around this convergence?
Well, in a way, we're describing it as a convergence, but really universal spiritual and wisdom teachings have been there for millennia, because they've been saying to us that the appearance of reality is not its true nature, that we are all fundamentally interconnected with the cosmos, and that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and the appearance of the universe emerges from deeper realms of mind and cosmic consciousness. And mainstream science, until relatively recently, has tended to say, no. The material realm, this physical realm, is the only reality. Its appearance of separation is real, it's its true nature. that our universe began almost by accident, nearly 14 billion years ago. Ever since then, it's existed, and evolutionary processes somehow have organized themselves randomly until now. That we are therefore the sort of culmination of those accidental processes of mutations and survival of the fittest, and that somehow our minds and our consciousness arise from our material brains. And that's been the sort of the mainstream scientific paradigm for many years. And that's now about to be literally turned on its head.
Wow.
180-degree turn on its head. And actually instead to come and stand alongside those universal spiritual and wisdom teachings to say, actually, yes, what we call reality arises, the appearance of our universe does indeed arise from deeper non-physical realms of causation and meaning, and that mind and consciousness aren't something we sort of accidentally have, but literally what we and the whole world are. And for me, that's not only incredibly empowering, but it offers us at this moment a real grounding in hope, because our fragmented beliefs have driven our dysfunctional behaviors. And so we are at this turbulent time and unsustainable time that really arises from that mistaken perspective and a buy-in to this illusion of separation that we're now realizing from compelling evidence, which I'm sure we'll explore, I hope we do, that is the case.
Wow, it is a very, very exciting time right now, even with all of the challenges that we face. And I'm just curious, Jude, what do you think, why is it really shifting like in 180 degrees? What is it about this time that, that the ancient wisdom is really what is it about this time? That is happening?
Good question. Good question. As a student of reality and a student of consciousness since I was 4 years old, believe it or not,
Wow.
and I'm now 67, so it's been a very scenic route, a very long route. But having experienced the multi-dimensional nature and unity of the cosmos for very many years, until now, science has not had the same perspective, because the role of science, as is often perceived, is to just research the physical realm. But what leading edge scientists are realizing, and in fact pioneering scientists for a very long time have understood, is we cannot understand the physical realm without recourse to a deeper underlying reality from which its appearance arises. And if you talk to even many of the quantum physicists, they acknowledge this. But the pioneers of quantum physics and Albert Einstein too very much saw cosmic mind as the grounding of then all that we call reality. So for me, what's happening now is we are intrinsic aspects of a whole universe that doesn't just exist and evolve, but exists to evolve. Our universe is so incredibly set up that it literally has this innate impulse to evolve from simplicity to complexity. So underlying its appearance of stars and planets and people, there is this sort of tide of evolutionary impulse, of consciousness that is seeking to explore and experience in ever deeper, more profound levels of self-aware individuation. Because unity isn't about uniformity, it's about radical diversity. And when you think about it, each and every one of us, more than 7 billion people, is a unique representation of the innate intelligence and evolutionary impulse of our universe. And so at this time, we've come to a point where if we don't evolve, we cannot survive and thrive. So that evolutionary impulse is both almost pushing us from the past, but calling us from the future. Offering us an opportunity and an incredible new adventure to step into an empowering, an empowering new path of our own evolution. And so literally, we're waking up and growing up and showing up and cleaning up and now linking up and lifting up, because we are all individually and collectively part of this incredible evolutionary impulse.
Wow, that is so exciting and so needed, right? And I'm so excited about how this is all merging together at this very critical time, as you said, in our world. And so that is what is meant. Is this true by conscious evolution, that we are really waking up? Yeah.
Very much, because, we talk about evolution in biological terms, but every biological step of evolution is also involved an evolution of consciousness, an evolution of complex and individuated awareness. But also we find that biological evolution, and in fact the evolution of our entire universe from its simplest to ever greater complexity, is really characterized by breakdown and breakthrough.
Okay.
They're rather like a caterpillar metamorphosizing into a butterfly. Right. A caterpillar, the job of a caterpillar is to eat, basically. It eats everything inside. It gets bigger, But a point comes when it stops eating and it goes into a cocoon, a chrysalis, and within that chrysalis, it breaks down, its body breaks down. And instead, this new evolutionary next step of its journey, a butterfly begins to form. Yeah? And as the butterfly begins to form, the dying caterpillar's immune system attacks the immune system of the emerging butterfly. And that makes the emerging butterfly stronger.
Oh.
And so when, again, the time is right, the cocoon, the chrysalis opens and the butterfly flies free. So every aspect of biological, what's called emergence or evolution, involves a degree of breakdown and breakthrough. And that, it seems to me, is where we are now. The old us, in that sense of a fragmented awareness, and the old paradigm, an old, belief in the illusion of separation is necessarily falling away. And the new, the butterfly of us, I feel, is really beginning to come together. And, its imaginal cells are being strengthened and empowered and are flourishing and, hopefully ready soon to fly.
I love that analogy of the butterfly, and I just love that those cells are called imaginal cells, right? It's like asking and inviting us to, okay, let's tap into our imagination, and also that, the caterpillar is no longer what it once was, but now it can fly, right?
Exactly. And the caterpillar's journey was necessary to get to the butterfly. So this isn't about denigrating or going into blame games and shames. We have come on this incredible journey because the hydrogen in the water in our bodies is as old as the universe.
Oh, wow.
We are all the journey of our entire universe at this point. And, all the journey of embodied as human beings to this point, and all that we've come through to this point.
Yeah.
So let's honor the past. Let's acknowledge and honor the past. But we get to a point in all our lives, don't we, where the old patterns no longer serve us.
Right.
And so by healing and releasing those patterns and all the traumas of those patterns, because we know those, don't we? Yeah, but they brought us to where we are. So in doing that, we can integrate the best of the past, the promise and the potential of the future. It's
beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Yes. You know, one of the things that I keep hearing a lot from a lot of authors and speakers is that there is this, you know, awakening, this worldwide awakening that is happening. And I'm curious, like, what do you think, like, for the average person, like, you know, all of us, like, how
we're all average.
We're all average.
We're all average.
Right. Right. How do we wake up? How do we, you know, become aware, and what is it? And maybe it's an individual process too. I don't know, but I do see, like, in my own practice and with the people, that there is this, like, this awakening that is occurring, and maybe it's just happening naturally right now because it's needed. I'm curious what you think.
My sense is there are many factors. And as you say, it's both on individual levels and collectively. And it seems to me that, you know, for some people, it's a health issue that's not being dealt with. And there's some form of healing crisis where we get to a point where we know we can't go on as we've been going on. Mm-hmm. And in a way, collectively, we're in a healing crisis because there's so much now that is showing us we cannot continue as we have been. We cannot, you know, through this myth of separation, be in conflict with each other and conflict with our planetary home and despoiling our planetary home. It just is not sustainable. And we're seeing very high levels of stress and depression and burnout and grief, all of which really are natural symptoms to the sense of overwhelmingness. But it seems to me also is that in that healing crisis, there are the seeds and the growing seeds of how we can heal. And that is really the waking up process when you go, oh, I never realized this.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know? And it seems to me too that everyone who is waking up, and there are ever more people every moment of every day, is how in that waking up can we help each other?
Oh, so important.
How can we help and support each other? How can we link and lift up? And a few years ago, and I'm sure you felt this too, I've been really tracking this from the early 60s to see how our collective psyche is dealing with what I was guided would be coming at this time.
Oh.
And when I look back, it started with tiny little seedlings of waking up in the early 60s. You know, the Summer of Love, the Beatles, all of this, you know. I was 10 years old when I heard my first Beatles song. It was like, wow. But it seemed to me then that something was already shifting within our collective psyche. But it like a tide, there were waves and waves and waves. And sometimes those waves were embraced and moved onwards, and sometimes they were denied. But the tide keeps moving. And so we look back, and I remember when nobody's heard of vegetarianism.
Right.
And if you're a vegetarian, you're mad. You're crazy. Okay. Certainly nobody's heard of veganism. Certainly, you know, certainly the idea of yoga or meditation or mindfulness when I was growing up, not even mentioned. And then I saw from the early 60s this movement. And it's still happening. But what I think people needed to do in many, many instances was go on their own journey of inner exploration and discovery. And when that became a sort of critical mass of people, I noticed that little organizations and therapists and therapy centers were starting to sort of beautifully be seeded. And over the last few years, I've seen how organizations themselves have moved to say, actually, it's time now for us to link up.
Wow. Yes.
So it is those imaginal selves that start very, on their own, maybe feeling a bit lonely, and then starting to realize there are others. But now it really is gaining huge acceleration and momentum. And it's still turbulent.
Yeah.
It's still, the froth and the how do we find each other, and, how do we align and attune and realize that unity is not uniformity, whether as individuals or as organizations, and to be able to find ways to agree to disagree with compassion,
yes,
and empathy and civility and honoring. That is our ongoing challenges, even at this sort of bow wave change. But we're doing it. We're having these conversations.
Yes.
And more and more and more than conversations. We really are now, it seems to me, organizations that are coming from this sense of unity, in diversity, and linking and lifting.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. So, Jude, how will our lives change once we truly understand the significance of what, living in unity and embracing these two historically separate approaches that, are finally coming together? How will our lives change?
My goodness me, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I can only sort of speak from my own experience, really, and the experiences I'm encountering with the folks around me. And it literally is like night and day. And it's a journey, I would say, from the loneliness where you see the world as a world of separation and merely materialistic, to aloneness, where you start to stand and look around and discover those commonalities, to a sense of all oneness. So it's loneliness to aloneness to all oneness. And the all oneness is very much living from a place of love rather than from a place of fear. And it's very simple, but I never say it's easy. I never ever say it's easy. But it's living as love. Living as love. And the answer to every question is love. And the recognition that, as Greta Thunberg says, nobody is too small to make a difference. So to answer your heart's calling, to be of service, to the greatest good of all beings, and just be in the world in that way. That's, for me, that's sense.
Wow, yes. And so let's say somebody listening to this was like, okay, so yes, I want to really step into, what it means to live in love and to have that guide me and to really have that open up inside me. Then perhaps, are you saying that one of the first ways that they can do that, if they wanted to say, yes, I'm going to really embrace this and go forward, would be to listen to their own heart's calling, or what other ways?
Yes.
Yeah.
It always go back to your own heart's calling. And, if you are feeling a call, but saying, but have not yet answered it, then ask yourself why.
Yeah.
What is holding you back? I don't have enough money. Well, do. I grew up the daughter of a coal miner who died when I was 10. I know what it's like to have no money.
Yes.
And yet my mum, who had no money, had something that was priceless, and that was love. And we don't need money to be kind to someone. We don't need money to smile at someone. We don't need money to give someone a hug. We don't need money to say, can I carry that shopping for you? We don't need, we don't need money to pick up litter. We don't need, it's whatever, whatever the reason is for saying no. Ask yourself, why is that answer no, rather than the answer
Yeah. Because that's so true. Sometimes it is the most simple things, just even, a smile to the cashier, and just that can begin to create the unity that you're talking about.
Very much so. And we never know where that smile leads to.
Mm-hmm.
We never know where that kind word leads to. We never know where that act of kindness leads to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on the receiving end of so many acts of kindness from people who, as far as I have any sense of, just were kind without expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I know their acts of kindness for me. I hope I've paid it forward and forward and forward. And the feedback I get from so many people is so loving to say, well, we met 10 years ago. You won't remember who I am. But you said something to me then that changed my life.
Wow.
We don't know.
Yes. I love that. I get the chills hearing that story. That's beautiful. So Jude, I have to ask you, you mentioned earlier that even at the young age of 4 years old, something opened up in you, or you had a realization about. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I have told this story quite a little bit because it seems to me that many folks have such experiences.
Okay.
I was very fortunate that I didn't share it with anybody at the time. And it wasn't because I was fearful. It was because I was having a lot of fun and it didn't occur to me to say it to anybody. But what I realized much later is that maybe if I had shared, and I'll explain what it was in a moment, if I had shared that experience, not my mum, but maybe my teachers or my friends or the neighbours or the family might have shut me down. And that would have stopped my inner journey and my explorations almost before they began. And instead, those explorations and everything that's come from them over more than 6 decades are who I am. Who I am. So what happened was I was in my bedroom and a discarnate light, literally a sort of soft golden light, a sphere of light just appeared in the room. And I heard a voice in my head. And it was soothing, it was kind, and it just began a teaching, really, a communication channel that's been open ever since, but not just with that voice, but with many other intelligences and archetypal beings and on many levels of awareness, which opened me up to naturalizing those communications and not seeing them as supernatural or paranormal, but supernormal, just part of who we are and that we all are. That we all are.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. And I know that people listening will really appreciate hearing that too, because we are guided, right? There are, yes.
We are, but I have so many folks come up to me in a corner somewhere. I've never told anybody else this, but
Thanks.
and I can say, share it, please share it. Let's all share our stories, because when we all share our stories, we realize just how incredibly common they are.
Yeah.
And that what we do really, we shut ourselves down to those wonderful experiences that are so nurturing and so helpful to us on our life path.
Yes. Wow. Yes. Yes. And so that will give other people permission, because here you are, 100,000 people, give them permission to really wow. Yes. Yeah. Good.
Absolutely.
So maybe you've touched on this already in some ways, but I know that you have a very personal relationship and really have, devoted your life, to this convergence, to this unity, paradigm that is coming forward, thankfully. And maybe you've shared a little bit, but what is your personal relationship to it, if you want to share a little bit more? Yeah.
It's really a lived experience. I mean, I at Whole Worldview, which I co-founded in 2017, we talk about understanding, experiencing, and embodying unity awareness. And so, the convergence of science and spirituality now is supported by incredibly widespread and compelling evidence that I write about in the cosmic hologram at all scales of existence and across many fields of research. And I'm a science nerd, I love all this stuff and bringing it together. But what has been able to, happen is that over the last few years, that evidence is so powerful. And we've now developed, we have a framework for a cosmology of consciousness, a science of love, which is essentially based on consciousness expressed as meaningful information in a universal alphabet. The simplest it could be of ones and zeros, from which everything we call our universe is made up, and holographically manifest. So, we have this model of a cosmic hologram, which is our universe as a great thought, rather than a great thing, a great thought of an infinite and eternal cosmos. And it's very beautiful and very simple. And that understanding is really a great step. But of itself, it is not enough. Okay? Because if we just understand something but then don't do anything about it, what's the point? What's the point? Mm-hmm. So our focus and the unity community of change makers, that everybody is invited to join this adventure with us, is about how do we experience and embody unity. Right? And there are many, many, many ways and modalities, but the first step is to show up for the adventure. And then the adventure finds us, in my experience, if we take a step towards the universe comes back and says, here's at you, kid. Let's go on this adventure. So it's whatever, through whatever means, whether it's meditation, mindfulness, dance, being in nature, yoga, whatever it is, and whatever spiritual path, because the spiritual path are all paths up the same mountain, and that mountain is a mountain of unity. The path is just to discover it for ourselves and experience it and embody it for ourselves. But this new understanding of reality that is founded is unity in diversity, is the foundation for all those paths.
Beautiful. Yes, so true, right? Jude, do you want to share with us a little bit about maybe one or two examples that really excite you about what this evidence is that you've been talking about?
I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, I mentioned that what we're now realizing is that the energy and matter and space and time of the appearance of our universe is not its fundamental nature, But energy and matter and space time emerge as the appearance of our universe from deeper non-physical realms. And those non-physical realms are essentially consciousness, because mind and consciousness aren't something we have, literally. As I mentioned, they are what we and the whole world are. Mm-hmm. So from those realms, essentially cosmic consciousness, appears our universe. And consciousness expresses itself as information, ones and zeros of meaningful information, not random data.
Okay.
But meaningful information that informs the appearance of our universe, and does so in a holographic way. So reality is real. but our universe exists and evolves as a unified entity.
Mm.
So, what is the evidence to show that, as you quite rightly say? What we find is that across all scales of existence, from the tiniest to the whole universe, we find relational patterns of information.
Mm.
And these are called fractals. They're very beautiful, but they underpin all phenomena from the very tiniest to the greatest. And they're self-similar, so they scale up and they scale down. So we find them at subatomic scales to the scales of clusters of galaxies.
Mm.
But 2017, we found them at the scale of the entire universe.
Wow.
And we did that because astronomers were looking at something called the cosmic microwave background, or CMB. And the CMB is the leftover, the relic radiation that's left over from the very earliest era of our universe. And it literally is throughout space. It's the whole of space. And when astronomers analyzed the patterns in the cosmic microwave background, they saw the same fractal pattern.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one piece of very recent and very persuasive evidence, but it builds on all the other evidence that comes to that point. The other, which I think is very important, is that from the beginning of the era of quantum physics, it was realized that when an observer observes something, that something changes. So there is no real separation between an observer and that which is observed.
Wow.
Now, the whole of quantum physics to work at all theoretically requires our universe to be connected at that level. It's called non-local or non-locality.
Okay.
Which means that our universe theoretically exists and evolves as this unified, non-locally connected. Within space-time, though, no signal can go faster than the speed of light. That's very important. But this idea of non-locality was thought, first of all, to only apply at the quantum scale.
Okay.
And then experiments started bigging that up. So it went from the quantum scale to organic molecules, which are huge in comparison.
Wow.
And then small diamonds. But that was lovely. But in 2017, researchers at MIT were able to non-locally connect photons of light in the laboratory with starlight 600 light years.
Wow.
Now, hold on, because they didn't stop there. That just wasn't good enough, right? So last year in 2018, they non-locally connected photons of light in the laboratory with starlight 600 light years away. And that non-local connection triggered by light from a very bright object, 12.2 billion light years away. Which means that light left that object called a quasar 12.2 billion years ago. And yet non-locally connected with photons of light in the laboratory now. 12.2 billion light years away, 12.2 years.
Amazing. Really amazing. And that really does say that truly everything is connected. We are all unified, right?
Yeah.
And then also, I just am beginning to understand what the observer effect really means. But if we were to truly embrace that, that is really tremendous power and responsibility for each one of us. Is that true?
Yes, because our universe is a great thought, a great macrocosmic thought, that didn't begin in a big bang. It wasn't big, it wasn't a bang. It was more the beginning of a big breath, okay?
Oh.
And we are microcosmic co-creators of its evolutionary impulse. So each of us has meaning and purpose, but each of us is always participating in our entire universe's existence and evolution. So our thoughts, our emotions are always affecting others. You know, I think it's important to stress we are microcosmic co-creators of our entire universe, but we are a collective psyche, a collective intelligence as innately participants in its path and adventure and journey. So yes, we know from so much evidence now that our thoughts and emotions affect our physical bodies.
Wow.
But our thoughts and emotions affect each other.
Wow.
I mean, have you ever gone into a house where there's been a domestic row and you go in and everybody's going, and you just know.
That's a great example. That is so true, isn't it? You can just feel it. Yes.
We talk about cutting the atmosphere with a knife. You know that. And that's the residual imprint of those emotions.
Wow.
And those words and those actions and those thoughts.
Yeah.
And, I work also at a planetary level. So I go with other healers to battlefield sites and places of deep trauma around the earth where conflicts have literally their imprint has seeped into the sort of intelligent fabric, as it were, the energetic meridians of Mother Earth.
Wow.
So when we're cleaning up ourselves and our traumas and releasing them, we're also needing to clean up not just our physical pollutions, but our conscious pollutions, our energetic conscious pollutions.
Wow, very powerful. Wow, yes. Well, I feel like I could talk to you for another 2 hours. But I do have a couple more questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Okay. Yeah. So you are the co-founder of wholeworld-view.org. So tell us a little bit about that if people want to connect with you and how it's supporting this convergence, this unity field. Yeah.
Thank you for that question, and I'll be delighted to. Well, first of all, when I wrote The Cosmic Hologram, I thought I was writing a book, and it turned out I was co-founding a movement. Who knew? I certainly didn't. But when we launched the book at the United Nations in New York, and then at the House of Lords in London. And in both, we invited change makers to that launch. Because I say we was my co-founder and dear friend Gil Agnew and myself, and a few other wonderful folks who we were starting to sort of really be with this sort of new adventure, to say, look, we feel that the message of this book could be a change maker because our beliefs drive our behaviors, the stories we tell and the stories we live by. And our beliefs have been pretty fragmented, certainly in our Western society. And they in the main have driven dysfunctional behaviors, which are no longer sustainable. And so as a healer, I know that if we just, and you are too, Joan, if we deal with the symptoms of a dis-ease, they may moderate that dis-ease, but they won't cure it, they won't heal it. Okay. And other symptoms will continue to show up. And so for me and for Gil, the Cosmic Hologram with its message offered an opportunity for us to heal our collective dis-ease of our fragmented perception of the nature of reality itself. So that's the basic, that was the first reason why we co-founded Wholeworldview, or www.wholeworld-view.org. And then we also realized that understanding this, as we said earlier, isn't enough. So how can we serve through Whole Worldview and the unity community that's grown from there, the experiencing and the embodying of unity, awareness, and unity in diversity. Yes. So since then, we've now grown to a global, a unity community of over nearly 1,000 global change makers, each of whom have their own
wonderful
networks, organizations. So you are so invited to join our unity community.
I will.
Yes, and you know, everybody who would love to come to the website, say, I'm in, I'm here. And we're offering, you know, unifying framework for the adventure. And it's very much about act local, feel global, think cosmic.
Beautiful.
And the me and the we and the all. So we're a toddler, we're 2 and a bit years and growing, but our whole ethos is to support linking up and lifting up, to scale up and speed up. How do we all, you know, everyone is invited to join this party, to join this adventure, and to be as.
It sounds so welcoming and uplifting and positive. And yes, I will definitely, and I really encourage everyone listening to go check out. And I'll have your website right underneath, you know, your interview too. And then also, you know, one of the things that you're offering to people who listen to the summit is this beautiful meditation, the universal heart attunement. You want to share with us a little bit about that? And then I'll have the link where they can go and, you know, go right to it if they would like to. Yeah. So yeah, share with us.
Thanks, Jo. And I'm delighted to be able to offer this. The story of the universal heart attunement goes back, over 20 years, 21 years. And in May of 1998, I got a clairaudient message to go to a place called Silbury Hill in southern England, near where I live. And that really opened an amazing journey, inner and outer journey of discovery for me, and many, many folks who, again, were invited into those journeys. And that was a journey that took us around the globe, around Gaia, to activate 12 power places, sacred power places, which really in their activation were to serve and support this shift of consciousness that we've been exploring, that was coming up to 2012, but beyond 2012, and is continuing. So those journeys of inner and outer discovery ultimately culminated in 2 books, the 8th chakra and the 13th step. And they ended up being 13 journeys, but that's too long a story to tell now, but they did. And what was coming forward was that as we wake up and grow up and remember who we really are, that the 7 chakras of our personality energy field were naturally expanding beyond that persona to be the wholeness of who we really are. And so instead of 7 personal chakras, we were also expanding into 5 transpersonal chakras, or higher levels of awareness. And so the universal heart, or the 8th chakra, is the bridge between our personas, self-awareness, and the unity, literal unity awareness of those 12 into 13 chakras. So the universal heart attunement is an invitation to be in that space of unity awareness, unconditional love, and the remembering of who we really are.
Beautiful. Thank you for doing that. Yes. Yes. Well, Jude, is there anything else that you want to share? I mean, we did talk a little bit about maybe a short guided meditation. Does that feel right now, or?
I'm feeling actually for the invitation for folks to go into the universal heart.
I was thinking the same thing. Good. Yeah. Good. So
if that was right.
That makes a lot of, that's perfect. Yeah. So what else, anything else that you want to share with us in these couple of minutes that we have left?
I was asked I was in Amsterdam over the weekend, and I was presenting at two big conferences, Wisdom and Business, because, you know, if we can help business to be wise, then organizations to be wise, that could be very helpful. And also the Inner Peace Conference. And they were both very beautiful. But someone was asking me what lessons or what I would suggest, you know, what lessons have I learned? What are the greatest things that I
Great question.
in my life? I know, it was a great question. And my sense was that, first of all, as you know, Greta Thunberg had said earlier, as I said, nobody is too small to make a difference. Nobody. Secondly, that to make a difference, I've been invited, and I haven't always managed it, but I try very hard to manage it now, is to show up and get out of the way.
Oh.
Just to show up and get our egos out of the way. Yeah. And that everything flows. And the third one is that the answer to all questions is love. Those three.
Oh, that pretty much just sums it up, doesn't it?
It does, really. Pretty much.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared. I really appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you sharing with such a warm heart and a welcoming heart, you know, everything that you're doing and inviting us all to participate. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joan, and thanks to everybody who is participating. And, you know, it is an amazing time for us to be here. And from my perspective, each and every one of us chose to be here and now, even with all the challenges, even with all the turbulences. You know, it's like we're the Olympic athletes of the cosmos at this moment.
So we got to stay in shape, don't we?
We got to stay in shape and support each other in staying in shape on all those levels, you know, not just the physical, but the emotional, the mental, and of course the spiritual.
Well, again, Jude, thank you so much. This has been a delight. And yes, I'm going to just say thank you one more time.
Thank you, Joan. Much love to you and to everyone. And please do visit wholeworld-view.org and join us and link up and lift up.
All right. Many thanks. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye.